What's up, guys? We're back. Last week we talked about Halo Episode 1, the things we liked, the things we didn't like. I was pretty skeptical about how the series was going to do moving forward. Episode 2 has dropped now, and I love it. I'm all in. Fantastic show. But before we get into why, I do want to complain a little bit about all the other reviews and videos I've seen going over this show. Shut up. Everybody's upset because of one thing or another. Yes, he took his helmet off. Get over it. It's fine. It really is. No, the second episode didn't have any action in it. Alright, I know we're adapting a first-person shooter to be a TV show, but not every episode is going to have a firefight in it because this is a TV show and not a first-person shooter. You have to understand they're telling the story through a different medium. A lot of people are complaining that they're relying too much on interpersonal relationships to carry the story instead of focusing on the Covenant versus the UNSC. Yeah, that type of stuff is what carries television shows. You're talking about the type of stuff that carries video game stories. They had to adapt what we're used to seeing the Halo franchise portrayed as, converted to a different media, and presented that way. But anyhoozle, let's get back to this episode, shall we? So you open up 22 years in the past as John's going through his Spartan training, and you meet a new character, Soren, and you see kind of a conflict between them. It's a little bit of a short clip that's really setting up the bigger plot point for this episode. But again, I'm really happy they're exploring a bit of John's past and his Spartan training. They never touched on that in the games. And then you get back to present day. There's a phenomenal scene where Master Chief is navigating his Condor through an asteroid belt. Just awesome cinematic visuals here. They're bobbing and weaving, they're ducking asteroids. And you get to see a little bit of the Master Chief that we know from the games, that stoic, things are hitting the fan, and he's just very calm, very collected. Just tells Quan to sit down and buckle up. Loved it. Every moment of it. Loved it. And then we arrive on Rubble, which is basically just a colony that's been made into, or out of, this asteroid field. Seems very dangerous, but, you know, whatever. Rubble is meant to be kind of this lawless place for outcasts, and they depict that perfectly by this terrifying rail system they have that just launches this cart they're riding in out into space, and after it floats for 5-6 seconds, a hook latches onto a cable while it's floating through space. Why you couldn't latch onto the cable to begin with before you ever got launched out into the openness, I have no idea. Seems like a design flaw to me. And once we get inside this field, you see that Vault-Tec has made their way to space, so that's coming in future Fallout games, I guess. But after that, you meet Soren again as an adult and kind of see how he has changed over the years versus how John's changed over the years. To see how the two parted ways as kids and to see them come back together as adults and see how vastly different they are as people. You also learn that Spartans have an implant in their back they're told enhances their abilities and everything. But Soren gives you more information. You learn that it numbs them, makes them emotionally unavailable, as well as prevents them from tasting anything, smelling anything. Really devoids them of any pleasures of life, which sounds miserable. But after some more catching up, John finally opens up to Soren that he's got this artifact, and Soren ends up knowing a guy. Little loopy in the head, he was abducted by the Covenant at one point and then let go. And his experiences with the Covenant drove him crazy. You know what else would be crazy? If you took the time to go down there and hit that like button for me. No, it's okay. I'll wait. Thanks, I appreciate it. But anyway, this guy might know something about the artifact. Soren takes him to him. You find out that it's a map and that John is a blessed one, allowing him to interact with the artifact, which I assume is a Forerunner artifact. A little bit different than the traditional Halo lore, as all humans could interact with the Forerunner artifact, whereas now it's only the Blessed Ones, John, and then the human that's with the prophets for some reason. I forget her name. But we'll see what they end up doing with that. Through this, John finds out that it's a map to what is potentially a weapon, freaks out, goes back to the UNSC. I really liked this part. I like that he went back to the UNSC. It shows that they're not going to completely vilify the UNSC immediately. It's going to kind of show how it's a complicated relationship where, yes, they're doing terrible things, but there's an alien race trying to kill everybody. So does the ends justify the means type of situation. The UNSC are still going to come out looking poorly, but I don't know if they're going to be the main bad guys of the TV show, which comforts me a lot. It should definitely still be the Covenant. While all of this is going on, they're also cutting back and forth to a lot of political back and forth. You find out that Madrigal has been taken over by a dictator that cuts a deal with the UNSC and is executing anybody who goes against him. Pretty grim. And obviously Quan feels some type of way about it. And then also back in the UNSC, on Reach, they're discussing how to get the Master Chief back under control, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they get Cortana approved, which seemed kind of sketchy in the first episode. You don't get to see Cortana yet, but she has been approved, and that's where the episode ends. It cuts away, and you got Cortana getting prepped. So, hopefully next week, we get to see a little bit of Cortana. We get to see what they're going to do with the Master Chief as punishment for disappearing with the insurrectionist Quan. I assume what's going to happen is they were going to put Cortana and him as kind of like a failsafe. We already know that doesn't work in the games. We will see how they use it in the TV show. I'm very excited. I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the show. Yes, they have changed some things, but they're keeping a lot of the core concepts the same. And that's why I think this show will ultimately succeed, assuming the hardcore fans will stop picking it apart.
If they go after Chief, they're not friendly.
But we'll see. Feel free to throw a comment down. Let me know how I did. If you liked the video, any comments you have, and what you think about the show. Love to hear from you. See you next time.